Hello everyone. Today we will look at how Basel journey started and will cover Basel 1 in detail, as this will help us understand key concepts used in Basel 2, 3 and 4. But before we do that, this shows topics we will cover in our video series on Basel. This should be sufficient for building understanding on key Basel topics that will help you with your jobs or exams like FRM and CFA. Let's see how Basel started. Basel started with formation of BCBS, that is Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, consisting of regulators of G10 countries, and in 1974 they released BIS guidelines, that is Bank of International Settlement Guidelines. Between 1988 to 1992 Basel I was implemented, which brought in fixes to the loopholes that were found in BIS. From 2004 to 2008 Basel II was implemented, which brought in much needed reforms to Basel I. In 2008, the world economy was struck by subprime banking financial crisis. Collapse of major banks like Lehman Brothers exposed the flaw in Basel II. Subsequently, in 2009, Basel III regulations were released. By 2016, Basel IV regulations were released. Let's go in chronological order by focusing on 1974 BIS regulation first. It mandates G10 countries banks to follow minimum capital requirement, which was calculated using a ratio. This ratio has total capital in numerator and total assets in denominator. Benefits of BIS regulations. It introduces the concept of minimum capital for the first time in banking sector. Also, it was first to have 10 major economies following the same consistent regulations. As good as it seems, it has its problems. Banks in G10 countries started losing out to their peers in other economies due to additional cost of having capital. To understand capital in detail, please refer to the video above or in the link in the description. If you look at BIS ratio, it has total capital in numerator, but the quality of capital does not matter. Similarly, it has assets in denominator, but there is no difference between good and bad quality assets. All assets and all capital were considered same, which today we know is not the right thing to do. Another flaw was that off-balance sheet items like derivatives, letter of credits, bank guarantees, which forms a very big part of bank's business, were not considered. To overcome these regulations, loopholes in BIS regulations, Basel I was introduced, and Basel I enhanced this ratio, also famously called as capital adequacy ratio, by splitting capital into tier 1 and tier 2 and replacing assets with risk weighted assets. Basel I basically split the total capital into two parts, tier 1 and tier 2 capital. Tier 1 capital is bank's core capital and tier 2 capital is supplemental capital or a good quality good quality capital, but not the best quality capital. Tier 1 includes share capital and past accumulated profit, which is truly bank's own money, as no one apart from bank has any legal claim on it. Tier 2 capital includes long dated subordinated debts. People holding these kind of debt instrument has claim on their money, but their claim, also known as lien, is lesser than that of depositors or normal lenders. So this money can be used to pay back banks depositors. We will look at full list of products that are available in tier 1 and tier 2 when we talk about Basel III, because this list has changed over the time. So we will look at the latest list that is currently being circulated. Also, as per Basel I, capital adequacy ratio should be at least 8% and tier 1 capital should be greater than tier 2 capital. Risk weights tries to split asset based on their riskiness. So we have seen that Basel I has divided capital into two parts. Similarly, it has divided assets based on their riskiness. So bank generally gives loan to corporates, retail, government, and not all of them carry the same risk. They have different risk, with government being the least risky and corporate being the most risky. So it is unfair to treat all of them same as it was done in BIS regulations. Basel has defined risk weights for balance sheet and off balance sheet item, and even in off balance sheet item they have separate treatment for derivatives. For balance sheet items, following are risk weight. Government is safe, so 0% is their risk weight. Interbank is slightly less safe than government, so 20% risk. Home loan is even more risky, so 50% risk. Corporate loan is very risky, so 100% risk weight. Off balance sheet items excluding derivatives, which are treated separately, Basel I says use a conversion factor to calculate loan equivalent. This is because a 100 million loan is not same as a 100 million guarantee. If we take an example of a bank guarantee, there is less chance of bank having to give money on guarantee, but 100% surety of bank giving money when they issue a loan. That's the basic difference. Guarantee is just a promise that in case company is not able to pay, then bank will pay certain amount of money from its pocket. But with loan, bank has transferred the money to the account of corporate. Once converted to equivalent loan, use risk weight in the balance sheet items to assign risk weights. For example, if guarantee was given to a corporate, then risk weight of corporate should be applied. If guarantee is given to another bank, then risk weight of interbank needs to be applied. So now let's move to the risk weights of derivative. Here potential exposure and current exposure expectations are calculated first, where current exposure is maximum of value and 0, which says if you are losing money on derivative contract, that is if you have to pay money, you have no risk. Risk is on the person who is getting money from you, and the risk is that you may not be able to pay. Hence your current exposure is maximum of value and 0. Potential exposure. Having no current exposure does not mean no risk in future, as prices of derivative can change rapidly, and potential exposure is given by Basel 1 as factor into notional. Now again, one thing which we need to remember with Basel 1 is that there is no concept of internal modeling allowed so far. So all these risk weights, these conversion factors and factor, all are defined by Basel 1. Let's see an example to understand this in detail. Suppose a bank has given home loans and corporate loans equal to $1,000 each and has invested in government bonds for $1,000 and has also given guarantees to corporate equal to $2,000 and an interest rate swap of $5,000. And as said, Basel 1 has no concept of internal model and everything is given by regulators. Conversion factor for corporate guarantee is given as 0.5 and factor for IRS is given as 4%. Now let's calculate risk weighted assets for balance sheet items, that is home loan, corporate loan and government bond. Home loan risk weight is 50%. We have seen in previous slide. So risk weighted asset becomes 50% into 1000. Corporate loan risk weight is 100%. So risk weighted asset becomes 100% into 1000, that is 1000. Government loan risk weight is 0%. So risk weight asset becomes 0% into 1000, that is 0. Now let's move to balance sheet items, off balance sheet items. In this case it is corporate guarantee. Step 1 is to calculate loan equivalent, as guarantee is not same as loan. So loan equivalent here as per Basel 1 is calculated as 2000 into conversion factor, which is given as 0.5. So it comes out to be $1,000. Now this is not the risk weight asset, this is the loan equivalent. We need to take the second step, which is to convert this into risk weight asset. Since your counterparty is corporate, so 100% risk weight, 100% into 1000 becomes 1000. Now let's figure out derivatives. Let's say our value of swap is minus 100, that is we are losing $100 on this swap, which means that current exposure, which is maximum of 0 or current value, it comes out to be 0. Then we calculate potential exposure, which is factor into notional, and that factor, which is 4%, so it becomes risk weight asset becomes 4% into 5000, which is 200. So total risk weighted asset is balance sheet risk weighted asset plus off balance sheet risk weighted assets plus derivative risk weighted asset, which becomes 500 plus 1000 plus 0 plus 1000 plus 200. Now minimum capital needed is 8% of total risk weight asset. So this comes out to be 216. Hope this little example has clarified concept of risk weighted assets and minimum capital. Breakthrough achieved by Basel 1. This regulation was followed by banks across the world and not just G10. So it was the first global regulation defining how banks should measure their risk and what they need to do to mitigate their risks. Another major benefit of Basel 1 was that it tried to divide asset and capital based on risk by introducing concepts like risk weight, risk weighted assets, tier 1 and tier 2 capital. Problems with Basel 1. Risk categories are too broad. That is, all corporate loans are considered same, whereas we know that AAA rated companies is way less risky than a CCC rated company. Focus is only on credit risk in Basel 1, whereas we know bank also faces market risk, liquidity risk, operational risk, which were not at all considered here. Risk mitigants like hedging, collateral, insurance are not considered. Thus, no incentive was given to a bank that follows good risk management practices versus a bank trying to take excessive risk. All of these problems are addressed in Basel 2, which we will look in next video. So this is all for this video. If you like the video, please hit like, share and subscribe, and do visit our channel for more such informative videos.